The views and opinions expressed in this program are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the views of BronxNet or the program underwriters.
Buenas tardes. Good afternoon. For those of you that don't know me yet, my name is Janet Peguero, and I have the distinct honor to serve as your Deputy Bronx Borough President. Thank you. Gracias. Thank you, everyone, for attending today. Today's forum is presented to you by the Office of the Bronx Borough President, Vanessa L. Gibson. Shout out to her. Yes. We have a powerful group of panelists, as you can tell by looking up in front. And I just want to let everyone know that this forum was designed with intention, okay? This forum was designed with the intention to educate and empower the residents of the Bronx. This was a labor of love by each and every single panelist that is here. Thank you for your commitment. The fact that you're here in person just highlights and speaks volume to your intention of social equity. So thank you so much to each and every one of the panelists for being here today. A round of applause for them. And so before we begin, I just want to run through some quick housekeeping items. Please ensure that your mobile devices are on silent. This event is being live streamed via BronxNet. Shout out to BronxNet for live streaming. For the folks that couldn't be in the room today but are virtually joining us, again, welcome virtually. And so we just want to make sure that our mobile devices are silent so that everyone that's joining us virtually can, hear and listen to the amazing work and feedback and reports from our panelists. So if we can just silence that. And I just want to take a moment to acknowledge our elected officials, many of whom were pivotal in the passage of this historic piece of legislation. We have with us Assembly Member Natalia Fernandez. ¿A dónde está? Mírala ahí. Thank you. We have our New York State Senator, Bronx County Democratic Chair, who is also a panelist, Senator Jamal Bailey. Thank you so much. Quickly, when I had this idea, when the borough president brought it to me and I was thinking about how to build this panel, I called the senator, and he was an amazing thought partner. So thank you so much, Senator, for being a huge thought partner there and a partner in service. A huge shout out to our sponsors. We have free food. It's free. It's going to come back out, but just know that it's free and it's here. And we want to shout out our sponsors. The Bronx Community Foundation for sponsoring today's event. The Latino Cannabis Foundation. Where are you, Latino Cannabis Association? There we go. Thank you so much. The Bronx Terminal Market. Yes. The Latino Restaurant Association as well. Thank you so much. And our hosts for today, the Bronx Museum of the Arts. Thank you again for housing us. I also want to give a special shout out to our community partners. This is, again, as I mentioned earlier, this is a labor of love, and without you, this event wouldn't have been possible. So thank you, Latinas Grow. They're over here, tabling over there. Thank you so much. We will hear from Latinas Grow in a moment as well. Can Occlusive, also sharing space with Latinas Grow. Thank you so much. Sobro, who I believe is in the back. Lehman College, and our partners over at BOEDC. Thank you again for your collaboration, your partnership, and commitment. And as I mentioned, folks are going to be tabling, so at the end, when this wraps, please make sure to stop by, walk away with the resources, walk away with connections, because that's the only way we're going to grow community, no pun intended in that part. And so without further ado, because I don't want to get in the way of this amazing panel discussion and this conversation, I want to introduce our moderator for this afternoon, Ms. Marissa Marcelino. Where's Marissa? Many of you know her from News 12 And so, just so you know, she is a New Yorker. She's a graduate of Columbia undergrad and the Columbia Journalism School. And she spent the last 3 years telling the stories of our community from tragedy to triumph. And so today she'll be moderating today's discussion. Once again, thank you so much for showing up and showing out. We outside. Happy Pride, happy June, happy Caribbean Heritage Month, Immigrant Heritage Month, happy Juneteenth, and to all the fathers out there, happy belated Father's Day. Thank you so much for joining us.
That energy is tough to match, you know? I think that... But thank you for the warm welcome. Very excited to be here today. I'm honored to be moderating this open forum on the legalization of cannabis. I was saying, just talking to this panel before, I've learned more about the topic in the last 30 minutes than I knew. So you guys are all going to learn a ton. We're going to dive into the opportunities now available to the community, opportunities that are coming, and then also touch on the past challenges. But before we do that, I'd like to introduce Bronx Borough President Vanessa Gibson, who I'm not sure has slept a moment since the first day of the year. One of the hardest working people I've ever met, one of the most passionate. I'd like to introduce your Bronx Borough President.
Thank you so much. Good afternoon, everyone. So again, welcome to the Bronx Museum of the Arts. What an honor and what a privilege to be here with all of you. It is such an exciting time. In the midst of everything that is happening, we are here talking about cannabis in the Bronx and the city of New York. So I truly want to also acknowledge BronxNet, our partners. Thank you, News 12 Bronx. Thank you to the Bronx Museum of the Arts, to Claudio Rodriguez and Shirley Solomon and the entire team. This is truly my home away from home. I want to acknowledge the office of the Bronx Borough President. Our entire team is here all around the museum, and I want to thank them for all of their work in making today's event happen. So I don't know if anyone had the food yet, but the food is delicious. Just want to say that. Thank you to the New York State Latino Restaurant Association, critical partners. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you to the Bronx Community Foundation. Our president and CEO, Dr. Misha Porter, is here. Also want to recognize our partners at the Bronx Terminal Market. Thank you so much. And of course, I have to acknowledge my amazing partner at Borough Hall. We often love to say that we are the only borough in the city of New York led by 2 women of color. And we love to say that that is happening not by design, but on purpose. So ladies and gentlemen, our Deputy Bronx Borough President, Janet Biguero. So, of course, I want to acknowledge all of our incredible partners and sponsors who help us not only with this event, but in your everyday service to the Bronx. I want to, again, recognize the Bronx Community Foundation, Hospitality Group, shout out to you, the Bronx Defenders, the New York City Department of Small Business Services, New York State Office of Addiction Services and Supports, Oasis, thank you so much. We also want to acknowledge Latinas Grow, Canaclusive, thank you so much, the Bronx Terminal Market, the Latino Cannabis Association. Thank you, thank you, thank you, everyone. We also want to thank BOEDC, the Bronx Overall Economic Development Corporation. Our acting president, Rafael Roger, is here. Thank you, Ralph, for all of your work. And I take this moment to thank and acknowledge our distinguished panelists, starting with Senator Jamal T. Bailey of District 36. Also want to acknowledge our chairperson of the New York State Office of Cannabis Control Board, Chairperson Tremaine Wright. Our commissioner of the New York City Department of Small Business Services, Commissioner Kevin Kim. Our associate commissioner on behalf of Oasis, the State Office of Addiction Services and Supports, Associate Commissioner Patricia Zuber Wilson. We also have an attorney representing the Bronx Defenders, Eli Northrop. We have the co-founder of ConBud, Cos Marte. We also have the co-founder of the Bronx Community Foundation, Desmond Lewis. And of course, I have to thank our moderator. Give it up for Marissa Marcelino. So as we all know, we are here because of the passage of the MRTA, the Marijuana Regulation and Taxation Act, which essentially legalizes cannabis for adults 21 years of age and older. This law will truly set out the framework and the guidelines to regulate cannabis in the state of New York in a balanced manner that will protect both public health and public safety while promoting social equity and economic development. The state's Office of Cannabis Management will license cultivators, processors, distributors, and dispensaries to grow and sell cannabis in the state of New York. To protect consumer safety, there will be laboratory testing and packaging and labeling requirements for all cannabis products. This office will also create social and economic equity programs to not only encourage our small businesses, our entrepreneurs, our MWBEs, and many of our communities who have historically been disproportionately harmed by drug enforcement and systemic racism for many, many decades in this state. Now we will have an opportunity to participate in this new industry. This office will also develop rules and regulations for all adult use cannabis. So we're here for a very important reason. We know the history, we know the data, we know the statistics, we know the people that have been disproportionately impacted by marijuana arrests for generations. People that have been locked up, mass incarceration, the school to prison pipeline has been real for many of us. Many of us have lost parents and loved ones to the systemic practices and also drug use. And so it is something that harms each and every one of us in a very delicate way. Now with the legalization of marijuana, it allows us an opportunity in this state to do something different, to right the wrongs that have systemically plagued communities of color across the state of New York. We are breaking down these barriers and silos, and we are working collaboratively with small businesses, entrepreneurs, and so many other stakeholders that see the opportunities, but also know that this is about creative and innovative approaches to dealing with the legalization of cannabis. And so we understand with the legalization, we've heard many concerns from many New Yorkers about marijuana smoking in their communities, in their neighborhoods, in the parks and playgrounds and other spaces. But we also know that while we talk about the legalization, we have to talk about the economic revenue. And we have to talk about the jobs and the small businesses that will benefit. We have to talk about going into those same communities that have historically been underserved and denied opportunities to now have access to progress. Opening doors of opportunity for the next entrepreneurs, business leaders, small business owners, and that's what today's conversation is about. We won't get every question answered today, but this is a beginning step. And I want to acknowledge many of you that I've met over my years serving as a council member and now 6 months as borough president, because we all realize that conversation started well before the legislation passed in Albany. We realize that in order for this to happen, you have to stay ready so you don't have to get ready, right? Because if you stay ready and you understand what is happening, you can be prepared. This is about generations and generations of entrepreneurs that look like us, that look like this community, that need to have access. And so I'm grateful for all of our partners that realize that this is about us working together, because we are truly stronger together. We're going to right the wrongs of our communities, and we're going to set this conversation on a different tone, on a different way, on a different path. We are about economic development. We are about stimulating our economy, and we are about creating pathways to the middle class. We are about ownership, financial empowerment, financial literacy. We are about making sure that the young generation has access and opportunity. And as we climb, we lift others with us. So that is what the purpose of today's forum is all about. And I am so grateful to all of you for your incredible commitment, for your compassion, for your dedication, and what I love to say, labor of love. Because you have to love your neighbors and see the future generation of leaders in order to do this work, right? We start somewhere, but we have short and long-term goals because we truly know the light is always at the end of the tunnel. And no matter what, we are not going to give up. So this is an opportunity for us to be creative, to be collaborative, to work together in partnership with the same mindset, the same priorities, the same values, the same blueprint, the same vision, and make sure that we capitalize on this opportunity here in the Bronx and in the city and in the state of New York. So again, welcome, bienvenidos. Thank you so much for coming. Thank you to our panelists for your time, and we look forward to working with each and every one of you. Thank you so much, everyone. Ladies and gentlemen, Chairperson Tremaine Wright.
All right, and before we get to the panel, we just have a couple people we would like to bring up that just want to say a few words. First up, Carlene Pinto, the co-founder of Latinas Grow, to provide us with a call to action. Yeah. Now, Latinos Grow. Latinos Grow is a statewide membership-based organization focused on empowering, educating, and organizing communities most impacted by the war on drugs, ensuring the Latina community is ready and presente.
Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. So my name is Carlene Pinto, and I'm so proud to be representing Latinas Grow. My business partner, Janelle Nunez, unfortunately, like most Latinas, has a very demanding 9 to 5. Let's make some noise for her. I want to thank the Bronx Borough President's Office for taking the time to host this panel and also live streaming it for our communities that couldn't be here today. Latinas Grow was founded 3 months ago with the vision that there are a lot of questions our community has that have yet to be answered. I want to start by saying I live 2 miles from here. I'm about 5 feet from the Bronx. I live on 135th Street and 5th Avenue. And 48 hours ago, we lost a young man from my community. If we can take a minute by giving a moment of silence for Darius Lee, a basketball star. I want to also provide a moment of silence for a Latina that we lost just a mile from here. Her name is Ariana Reyes Gomez, a 31-year-old NYPD transit officer murdered by her estranged husband. And so we know that we're here today to talk about cannabis, but when we talk about the war on drugs, we have to acknowledge that where I live, 160 shots ran out on Sunday. And it's unclear whether there's been any arrests, and right now we have 8 other people that are struggling because they were shot that evening as well. And this is a crisis that all of us have to step up for. Violence in our communities, whether it's in our homes or on our streets. So Latinas Grow a month ago committed ourselves to licensing for our community and to elevating and working with our Black brothers and sisters statewide. We've partnered with the Hood Incubator and CanEclusive in providing apprenticeship and incubation opportunities, where last month we're very proud that we brought 6 members of our community to California for a 4-day learning session with 25 social equity licensees in California. Sylvia was with us. Sylvia has her own brand. Make some noise. It's made right here in the Bronx. We're here in the Bronx because here we're last. Right now, we're last coming to the table for this conversation among our other borough partners. Latinas here are last in our employment opportunities and abilities to leave violent domestic situations. We have an unemployment rate here that's 3 times the national average at 12.5%. And so at the intersection of cannabis, I want everyone to think about the delivery workers that we championed during COVID, the farm workers that we've been lobbying rights for the last decade. Thank you, Natalia Fernandez and Senator Jamal Bailey, who have been championing immigrant rights bills the last 4 to 6 years that I've been working with them on that. But we have questions as per what's going to happen with folks that are not U.S. citizens, whether it's about equity and accessibility or whether it's about enforcement. So if you are a young documented person in a college classroom, on a college campus, and you go back to your dorm and you light up a joint, are you going to end up being deported because someone catches you smoking and it's federally illegal? We're not sure. And so we're coming to the table today very grateful, wanting to ask 2 questions about inclusivity and enforcement. Inclusivity as per in a city where 40% of our population is foreign born, how many languages are we pushing ourselves to translate into? How are we hypermobilizing folks that we know are already excluded? And how are we making sure that we use the tax dollars from cannabis to change those outcomes and save the next Darius Lee or the next Ariana Reyes Gomez? So we hope folks come over to our table. We're featuring Latina brands from our community that are awesome. We have English and Spanish takeaways for CBD and the health impacts. And we're also looking to mobilize folks because we can't do this by ourselves. So if you take a picture of our QR code, you'll get a link to a couple Latina brands that are awesome, Conbud being one of them. We're super grateful for Junior Martinez, Alfredo, and the Conbud team for always supporting and making sure Latinas are at the table. And on behalf of everyone that's mobilizing around the war on drugs and organizing our communities, keep going, everyone. Keep asking questions and keep working with legislators and leaders that are ready to answer and work with you on those solutions. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And up next, we'd like to bring up Dr. Maisha Porter, President and CEO of the Bronx Community Foundation.
So I'm a teacher, and so we are here because this is really about laying the foundation to ensure we're educated. The Bronx Community Foundation exists to eliminate poverty and build generational wealth. This is a moment towards a mission, folks. And as I look out at this room and see all of the beautiful brown faces, it is so powerful to see us stepping up. It is so powerful for us to be ready. But we have to ensure that the promises made around this industry are promises kept. Because I'm not going to stay up here long because this panel is way important than me. But what I will tell you is I have 8 brothers. I have 8 Black brothers. And so, like many of you, my family has been disproportionately affected because I just got too many brothers, right? But the fact of the matter is, there's been a promise made around this industry. And there have been many, many promises made to communities of color across the country and to the Bronx. It is time for us to continue to fill rooms like this and make sure we're at the table. Our legislators, our partners are here listening because they want to hear our questions. They want to make sure that they go back and enact legislation that makes sense. I want to thank Borough President Gibson for knowing how important it is to have a seat at the table for all of us. And I just wanted to shout out Bronx Defenders, who are going to be a partner with the Bronx Community Foundation in building a cannabis hub. We're going to continue to have education events across the borough. So like the sister from Latinas Grow say, the Bronx will no longer be last. I know the borough president's not having it, and I'm not having it. And like the deputy said, we out here.
Thank you so much. And just one more very important speaker we're going to bring up before we get to this amazing panel. We have the Vice President of the Latino Cannabis Association, Sandra Jaquez.
Good afternoon, everyone. I just want to thank everyone today for coming out. I'll make it really short because I know we're ready to start with the panel. Thank you, Madam President and Deputy President, and I'm happy here to represent the Latino Cannabis Association and be a partner to all of you as we work together to ensure that people of color are well represented in the adult use cannabis industry. You could count on us and our communities in helping our people. In Albany, working with our legislators and regulators, as well as wherever it is needed to uplift this cause. Thank you again for this opportunity, and we look forward to working with all of you, and you have our full support. Thank you.
All right, so before we get to this panel, which we've been saying we're going to get to, we just want to recognize Representative Marjorie Velasquez is also here joining us today. And, you know, as the Bronx Borough President's Office said, you know, they have worked very hard to put together today's panel. When I took a look at it yesterday, I was just kind of wowed by how well-rounded it was, and I think you'll see the same thing. Very inclusive group, able to touch on most of your questions, hopefully, every angle of this important topic, and they're all subject matter experts. So this will be very good. Starting off here, we have Senator Jamal Bailey. He represents the New York's 36th State Senate District, covering the Bronx neighborhoods of Norwood, Bedford Park, Williamsbridge, Co-op City, Wakefield, Baychester, and the Westchester city of Mount Vernon. We are very honored to have Tremaine Wright here today. She's the chairperson of the Cannabis Control Board and is a former member of the New York State Assembly. Next, we have our finance expert on the panel, Kevin D. Kim, the commissioner of the New York City Department of Small Business Services. Our health expert, the associate commissioner of the Division of Prevention and Problem Gambling Services, Patricia Zuber-Wilson. We have Eli Northrup, an attorney at the Bronx Defender's Office, here as our legal expert. And small business owner, Cas Marte. He's the founder of ConBud, where he's looking to hire formerly incarcerated people for a brand new cannabis brand and market. And rounding out the panel, we have Desmond Lewis, the co-founder of the Bronx Community Foundation. His organization is actually going to be partnering with the Bronx Defenders to launch the Bronx Cannabis Hub. But we'll get to all that and more later. But I think the first question that we should probably just start with, that I think everyone kind of has a lot of questions about, what is the legalization of cannabis? And can you explain what the legalization is for? Chairperson Wright, you're probably the best person to start with, and then we'll kind of go from there.
Okay, so legalization of cannabis in New York State is about opportunity. This is our state's law is really designed for equity and inclusion and diversity, is anti-monopolistic. It is designed so that we have access points for individuals to get involved. It is designed so that we are reinvesting in our communities that have been harmed. It is specifically designed so that we can take advantage of this opportunity that is rare. It comes like once every 100 years, where a new industry is legalized in our state, and we have an opportunity to create all the pathways in and to support not just industry, but the education and the research and the learning, and also the reinvestment, which is going to happen in this go around, that has not happened previously. So that's what we're looking at when we say, what is legalization here in the state? I did have notes. Give me 1 second, because then I'll tell you all the rest. So, but I am going to say one of the other things that we wanted to think about, though, is making sure that in providing access, that we create structures that support access and opportunity. One of the things that our state legislature and our governor has passed is a Seeding Opportunity Initiative here in New York State. That is giving the first opportunity to participate in adult use cannabis to those people who have been harmed by overcriminalization and or those who have been suffering and distressed in our communities. So what we've seen is an opportunity for cultivation and processing. We're going to see dispensaries later this year, And we're also going to see the rollout of a $200 million loan fund, which will be utilized to help set up our initial adult use dispensary licensees in this state. So we're developing a system of supports. While we are focused on equity and equity applicants, our support system, our technical services will be afforded to any and all applicants throughout the state. And our social equity arm, our social equity office, will be rolling that out as things develop.
Thank you so much. And, we'll come back to you because you have tons on this, but Senator Bailey, if we could start with you. Can you walk us through a little bit about the history of the passage of this piece of legislation? A phrase that has been thrown around a lot today is the war on drugs and how this community was affected by that. Can you talk us through, what this means and why it is so important?
Opportunity is the word. I think that's going to be the resounding word of the day is opportunity. But just to give you a primer on where it started, and first let me just thank you, Madam Deputy, and thank you, Borough President, for giving us this space to share and to have a conversation so that we can advise Bronxites about what we've been able to do and how far we can go. And so it would not surprise you, based upon what's happening in the world today, that the charge was led by women. Liz Kruger, Senator Liz Kruger in the Senate, Diane Savino in the Senate, and Assemblymember Crystal Peoples-Stokes in the New York State Assembly. We have to make sure we give the credit where it's due because they saw it through days where they thought that this was not going to happen. They meaning everyone. Entering the legislature as a member of the minority, I remember doing a press conference and Assemblymember Wright was there, and there were probably maybe 6 to 8 of us in the Senate and maybe 10 to 12 Assembly members who had a fleeting dream that this could happen. And eventually, elections do have consequences. And when you elected a democratically led state Senate, not to make this political, but when you elected a democratically led state Senate, we got a lot of advances in certain things. And the first step was the decriminalization of cannabis. That bill was passed on June 20th, 2019. Why do I know the date? Because it was my bill. It was a bill that I was prepped for by the executive director of the CCM, Chris Alexander. Chris and I worked on that bill with Senator Kruger, and we spoke about what decriminalization would mean to our communities. As Pac said, they got a war on drugs so the police can bother me. And this is not to vilify police. This is not to vilify law enforcement who do a good job. But we have to understand that the war on drugs was intentionally targeted towards communities of color, to disenfranchise us and to take economic opportunity away. The word opportunity is more meaningful, especially in this context of legalization, where it means that we not only are able to consume, but we're able to utilize, able to benefit from it economically. Now, I am a member of the Never Tried It Club. I have never consumed cannabis, and I do not intend to consume cannabis. It is just not something that has been for me or will be for me, which is perfectly fine. But as a legislator, I think it was my duty to make sure that the people in my community, in my district, in my borough, in my city, in my state, benefit from what we were able to do eventually on March 30th, 2021, which was the legalization of adult use cannabis. And so we walked through from decriminalization to legalization, and because it's an emerging market, I'm glad we have Tremaine Wright as the chair of the CCB, excuse me. I don't know why I keep saying CCM, of the CCB, because it takes someone who understands social equity. I'm going to close because I know we have to get to a lot of people, but this is about social equity. The two of us were the sponsors of something called the Crown Act. Now, if you know about the Crown Act, that prevented discrimination against hair, right? It prevented discrimination. So social equity is more than just one thing. Eventually, everything connects, which is why it's important for us to get in on the ground floor of this emergent market. Just like my pops and maybe your pops and your cousins, they said, man, somebody told me to invest in this company called Apple. And somebody told me to invest in this thing called IBM. And somebody told me to invest in this ABC, X, Y, and Z. We're telling you now. We got to get in on the ground floor, and we have to help you do it. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And, talking about getting in on the ground floor, Commissioner Kim, how is the city preparing? How will it work in terms of the equity, making sure that the Bronx gets the amount of licenses that people want and people need?
Sure. Thank you for that question. I want to just start off by thanking Borough President Gibson and Deputy Borough President Peguera, because from the day I started this position about 5 months ago, they both said, you've got to be in the Bronx more. You've got to come up to the Bronx more. And every time they call, I'm in the Bronx. So I want to thank them for bringing me up here. But also, I have to point out, Chair Wright, if they had a system of rewarding miles traveled by car, because she's covering the entire state as chair, doing more forums. I mean, it's like unbelievable. If they had a mileage program, you'd be... Anyway, so, but to my point here today for being here, is from day one, Mayor Eric Adams made equity a centerpiece of this administration. It's really at the heart of all the work that we've always done at SBS, at Small Business Services. Every program that we design, every policy that we think of centers around social equity as its centerpiece. And so related to that, the mayor has put close to $5 million of the executive budget into SBS to help support this emerging industry. We are working on a multi-agency. And that's the other thing about this administration. Honestly, I come from outside of city government, and the coordination it takes to get any simple thing done is a lot. And if you're not working together within New York City government itself, you cannot get stuff done. And that's what a lot of people have faced. But in this administration, we've been taking an approach of a multi-agency coordination on everything we do, including cannabis. So this money is coming in. Starting July 1st, we are forming a team within SBS that's dedicated specifically on the social equity rollout, outreach, education of the cannabis industry. And we're really an extension of the state. And this is another great thing about what's happening right now, is that the state's leading the way, and the city and the state are very closely aligned and working together. So whatever they need, we're here to support. I think the technical assistance part of it that the chair also mentioned, we have that expertise. We've been doing it for small businesses for many, many years, and we are offering our services so that the state, we've already talked about it, we have multiple calls per week so that we can stay in line exactly hand in hand with the state on whatever they're trying to do. So for example, when they get their applications out, they're going to train us on how to then go out and train all the community partners that we've had over the years on how to then help the applicants, right? Eli Northrop and I were just chatting. And that's the other reason why these forums are so important, is because you're here to hear from this expert of panelists, but what we hear and learn from each other is so incredibly important, and what we hear from you is so incredibly important. We just had a mayoral roundtable as well, where the ideas that came in about the importance of credible messengers in the community, right? People don't trust government, we get that, and we need credible messengers to be our partners. So anyway, with Eli, we were just talking about how we can work together to help people with the technical assistance part of the application in the community. So I'm a former state liquor authority commissioner, so don't boo me yet, because that was a long time ago, right? But now I get to use it, right? I get to flip the script a little bit, and now I'm able to use that knowledge and experience to understand that when you have an application process with the state, it doesn't matter what it's for. Most people get frustrated. I've seen it from both sides, helping people get through it and as a regulator. So how do we help work closely with the state to get over those humps, not make it intimidating, not have you stuck at the process of applying for 6 months? Because that's what happens, frankly, still with the SLA a little bit, is that you'll miss something, and then takes a couple weeks for them to tell you missed it, and then you have to go find what you're missing and then turn it back. And before you know it, 6 months is gone. You're paying rent on your space. You have hired workers. So that's what we're also trying to avoid, is that just getting a license from the state liquor authority side doesn't mean you're going to have a successful business, right? That's just the first step. And that's where at SBS, we want to give you all the ancillary support. When you try to get a retail space, if you're having frustrations with the Department of Buildings, the FDNY, Department of Health, and you need to get those permits finalized, you come to us, because that's what our agency does. We're the one non-regulatory agency that's on your side. So I just want to throw that out there for you also. Thank you.
And so many people here today submitted questions that we want to make sure we get to. We want to kind of get down to the nitty gritty. So I'm going to ask some questions, whoever wants to chime in, but just kind of some logistical things. When can people start applying for licenses? When can people start planting seeds? How many plants can they have? Just some of the by the numbers. Whoever is best to go about that.
So now I'm the Grim Reaper, because the answer is no, no, and no. Because regulations have not been written, no. But more seriously, we have started the Seeding Opportunity Initiative. We have already issued close to 200 cultivator licenses. Those licenses were directed and afforded to people who have been hemp farmers in New York State previously. They had to have grown hemp for at least 2 years, and I think the opportunity has only existed for 5 years, so they had to have been growing for at least 2 of those 5 years. Almost 200 of those licenses have been issued. That application window ends on June 30th, so we anticipate that there will be some more, but guesstimate a good 200. Processing licenses will be issued shortly thereafter, because also as a part of the Seeding Opportunity Initiative, we are doing early grow, early processing, and first round of retail dispensaries. We just closed the window for the comment period on the retail dispensary regulations. So I hope all of you who are interested in operating retail establishments took a look at them. If you have not, they still exist on our website, which is cannabis.ny.gov. Those applications are not yet, that application window has not yet been set, because we are revising the regulations, which everyone saw. We received hundreds of emails and comments. Those are being processed. Thereafter, we are going to revise them. They're actually in the process of being revised. We will reissue them for another 45-day comment period, and thereafter, we're able to finalize them. So I anticipate that we're looking at a timeline that will take us approximately through the end of the summer just to have a final set of regulations. Then we will be able to open up our application window and start issuing licenses probably by the beginning of the fall, but in the fall, this fall. That way, we anticipate the doors will be able to open by the end of the year. That's an aggressive timeline, but that's what we're looking at. Now, I know that a lot of people are thinking, I do not qualify for these conditional licenses. That is okay. Do not be dismayed. The opportunity still exists. There are no limit to the number of licenses that we are issuing in New York State. I want to say that a second time. This is not a moment of scarcity. This is not a moment of fighting for whoever grabs the quickest and first. This is a moment where we are rolling out our program, testing our systems, giving the people who are most harmed an opportunity to be a part of that pilot. But it is not the door closing. This is us opening the door, making sure things work, systems are in place. We do not want our system crashing on the first day of open applications. So we're running applications now with a very small pool. So we're doing our work on our end, and we are trying to prepare ourselves so that when the doors open. So when do those doors open for everyone else? The timeline for our other regulations, just the general adult use regulations, are hopefully by the beginning of next year, maybe by the end of this year. So we are in the process of drafting and getting comments from various agencies, as well as our executive, some of our legislators. This is happening right now. We have already issued the first draft of packaging, labeling, manufacturing, as well as lab testing. So nothing will go to market without testing, so we had to do those first. We are doing the first round of dispensaries this fall, God willing. The doors will be open. So we needed to be able to give some guidance and some forecasting for what those labeling and products should look like. So that's why these are the first regulations that we have rolled out. We are trying to be deliberative. We are trying to move it ahead. We're asking people to work with us to make sure that you go online, look at our regs, give us your feedback. We know that they're not perfect. That's why there are 2 comment periods. We need to hear from you, and we need to know. So end of this year, conditional program should be up and running, and we're hopeful that we will be able to kick off the adult use shortly thereafter, but we want the regs to be done by the end of this year, which means that the application pool would open beginning of next year. And home grow is in the medical program. Right now, if you are in need of home grow, I'm expecting you to go and get certified by a medical practitioner. We have changed medical program, so any practitioner who can write a prescription can certify you for the medical marijuana program, and therefore you would be able to participate in it. We currently have our home grow regulations out for comment. We anticipate that those will be ready this fall as well. And under the medical program, people are allowed 6 plant, I think it's up to 12, 6 mature. It has to be rotating. So up to 12. The nut don't have all 12 in mature stage. But it's a rotation. And that would give you an opportunity to actually participate in the state's first iteration of home grow. However, home grow is anticipated to also be in our adult use program. Let's not do that. 3 ounces per person. So in the legalization, you can have 3 ounces on your person, and it will be considered a legal possession. Currently, there are no legal sales in this state outside of the medical establishments, the medical cannabis ROs, or registered organizations. So no gifting, no trades, no barter, no going to the weed truck that said that, you can make a donation, I'm going to give it to you. All of that is illegal. Please do not participate in that trade, especially if you are considering coming before this board or any other state agency for a license in New York State. It's just not worth it. The window is opening. You are too close to the goal line. It's not worth it.
We had a number of questions about eligibility in terms of getting a license, who's eligible, if you have a past criminal record, are there certain neighborhoods? I'm thinking our legal expert down on the end, maybe you could touch on that.
Sure. Check, check. Can you guys hear me? Yeah. Well, I think there's different eligibility for the different licenses as they roll out. I will say one thing that there's a lot of misconceptions about is if you have a past conviction for most drug-related offenses, it's not a prohibition on getting a license. And I think it's actually helpful in certain senses. So don't feel like if you have a felony conviction or a misdemeanor conviction that this shuts you out of the industry. It does not. And the law was written very intentionally to ensure that actually brings people in. Now, if you have a conviction for a business fraud offense, certain offenses in that category, that could actually hurt you in terms of the application process. But general drug-related offenses, even other criminal offenses, are not a bar to getting a license. For this first round of conditional adult use retail licenses, you actually need to have a cannabis-related conviction to be eligible. Either you, a spouse, a parent, or a child, essentially. somebody in your direct family needs to have had a conviction for you to be eligible under this first round of licenses. There's also a requirement of business experience in this first round of licenses. So as Chairwoman Wright alluded to, that the regulations are not final, but the first set of regulations said that you needed to have been part of a profitable business for at least 2 years and have owned 10% of that business. Now, that's not final, but it's probably going to be something like that that's in the final licensing regulation. So if you're looking at this first batch of licenses, those are requirements that you need to comport with. Now, there's a whole social equity program. The social equity program gives priority to individuals, communities disproportionately impacted by the war on drugs, the war on cannabis, and the Bronx should be first in line because I mean, I'm a public defender. I work over here at the courthouse. I've been here for the last 7 years practicing in the Bronx. I used to handle hundreds of cannabis cases every single year. And no white people, just to be perfectly frank, this is a substance that people across races use at equal rates, but in New York we were arresting people of color 90% of the time. So, you know, it's not just like the arrest happens and then even if somebody's not convicted necessarily, it follows people. People lost their jobs, people were deported, people lost their kids, ACS intervened. So, you know, there's a lot of collateral consequences that stem from that criminalization. This bill, the intent of it is to help repair that harm. So if you're from a community disproportionately impacted, comptroller study, I think in 2018 said 4 of the neighborhoods in the top 10 neighborhoods in New York City that had the largest amount of marijuana arrests were in the Bronx. So part of the advocacy is ensuring that the Bronx and communities within the Bronx are deemed communities disproportionately impacted. So that's, you know, we need to organize around that. If you're from a community disproportionately impacted, then you have extra priority in the social equity program. If you have conviction, you have extra priority. There's a number of other, you know, minority and women-owned businesses, distressed or veterans, and there's a number of other social equity provisions. All that will come out in the regulations. But I think what we have here has been alluded to by the other speakers. You know, New York did this the right way, and I want to thank Senator Bailey and the other members of the legislature. They passed a really good bill. But this is an uphill battle. Like, social equity has not worked in any other state, really. It really hasn't. We have a good bill, but like there's a million forces that say that people are going to lose. So there needs to be real support and intention in carrying out the implementation. It's one thing to have a good piece of legislation. It's another thing to make it work. So like we need to organize around ensuring that it's implemented as it's supposed to be. And that means providing support to people, social equity applicants. It means providing legal expertise. It means providing sources of funding. And, you know, I'm looking to partners in this room, because if that doesn't happen, it's just going to be like it's been in every other state. It's lip service, right? Okay, yeah, we're going to have a social equity program. Yeah, we're going to make sure, you know, that everybody who is affected is going to participate. We have to see it. We have to see it. So I'll stop there. I hope that answered the question.
Oh, that was good.
I just wanted to also add that I think more than, and the chairperson said this, more than any other industry we've seen in a long time, the cannabis industry should be the industry that focuses the most on social equity, and particularly in communities like the Bronx. And when we think about social equity, and you know, I'm going to ask Eli to talk a bit about the work that we're going to be doing in the Bronx, but I think social equity and where New York is getting it right is prioritizing access to things like funding, right? Prioritizing access to things like property and real estate, right? When we're looking to launch dispensaries, prioritizing communities most disproportionately impacted. And cannabis is a hard business to get into. It's not easy, right? It's not an easy business based on the capital restrictions, based on the ability to run the business itself. It's a highly compliance-heavy business. As a foundation, we've been doing a lot of conversations across the state, but also across the country, and talking to social equity applicants in other states and how they have succeeded. And it comes down to really the government support. And I think the state is doing a lot of great work on the social equity side to make sure that our people in this community particularly, have the right and best foot to be put forward as we go into this industry, because this is a huge opportunity and we are being prioritized. And so we need to organize around that to make sure that we are the people that are getting licenses. Right now, I think the national average is less than 2% of cannabis licenses are owned by people of color. And the Bronx needs to be put at the forefront in this state to be able to make sure that we have the licenses, because we have been the ones that have been most disproportionately impacted. And so I think the state's doing a great job, and we're willing to support any of the work that focuses around this particular effort.
And Patricia, you and I were chatting before all of this, just about how important it is to bring all these different groups to the table, because you're on the health side, right?
We're on the health side.
You want to make sure that this doesn't get into the hands of kids. Can you talk a little bit about that and how there's kind of a community effort behind that?
Absolutely. I hear the energy, I hear opportunity, I hear equity, I hear all of these things, and it is so exciting. We also need all of you, okay? Because adult use cannabis is not for individuals under the age of 21. Their brains are still developing. We want them to be successful adults. We want them to be part of the community, contributors to our community. And to do that, we have to help them make healthy choices. We have to help our young people be resilient. So when those things, things will knock you down every now and then in your life, right? They'll knock you down. We want to be able to help the kids stand up and not necessarily need substances. So we need all of you. We need you to be part of community coalitions, to work with our prevention providers in the community, to talk from the community up how we prevent underage use, how we prevent misuse. These are all important parts of having a successful business, because you want people to come to your business. You don't want the borough president, we were talking earlier about everybody coming and knocking on her door saying, well, we got a dispensary in my community, and you know what happened with my community. So we at Oasis want to be your partners. We want to bring everyone together. And for those individuals who need it, we want to have services for those individuals in the community, supporting individuals. So we're here to be your partner. I know one of my prevention provider community people from Northeast Bronx is here, so I am so proud of her for coming, because we always say to everybody, when the dispensary's open, with the 12 sectors that we want, with the bars and the bodegas and the faith community and providers and treatment, everybody, we want to make sure that dispensaries are at the table, because you're going to be part of the solution working with us for underage use. So we're here, we support you, and I want to thank everybody at this table, because it's a partnership. So thank you.
So to that effect, I just wanted to jump in from the perspective. I have a phrase I like to say that we can't legislate community, right? So that means that there are going to be certain quality of life issues that come up, and there are going to be certain things that constituents come to us with, members, and they're going to say that they are not familiar, or they are not welcoming, or they do not like the legalization because of the quality of life issues that it may happen. What I would urge is that while we cannot regulate that specifically, I would urge us in the concept of choice and making sure that when we decide to or not decide to tell people that they have to do this, that if you're looking to consume or partake, do so in a way that is thoughtful of others, right? And this is not to be, to borrow the phrase, to be the fun police, right? This is not me trying to blow your high, so to speak, right? But this is me coming to you as a legislator who has people who have concerns about some of these things. So I just ask that we be thoughtful in how this emerging market takes place. And we're not going to know all of the answers in the first year. So I want you to understand that Tremaine Wright is one of the hardest working people in our state. And even though she's one of the hardest working people in our state, the CCB is not going to have every answer that you want about this brand new market in the next year. I'm telling you that, and it's not because she's not working hard. It's because it's a brand new market of something that is still federally prohibited, which is a whole other host of issues that we have. But I did want to touch on something in terms of regulation, some of the things that the state is doing to outlaw some of the driving while high issues, because, driving while drunk is a concern, and driving while high is also going to be a concern as well. And so, under Chair Wright's leadership, OCM is OCM. Why do I keep saying it's OCM? It is OCM. Thank you. Right? OCM is putting its record amounts of money into the enforcement of road safety, because when you have a diverse conference, shout out my leader Andre Stewart-Cousins, and under the leadership of Andre Stewart-Cousins, you hear different perspectives, and members from the suburbs and rural New York, they have different concerns than we may have in mass transit based areas. So there are issues and concerns with driving, and I think that our chair can expound upon that a little bit.
So the OCM has been really deliberate about doing an education program throughout our state. One of our partners, I want to just say thank you to Oasis for being here, and they're a part of it. And I'm going to say your Commissioner Cunningham just had a conversation with me recently, and she identified a number of institutions here in the Bronx that have been doing some really on-the-ground, I'm going to say innovative work around cannabis, and through medical facilities have been educating the public on ways in which cannabis might be able to interact with them, with their lives, their needs, and what they might want out of it, and how to use the product more safely. So I just want to say thank you for identifying that, because the partnership is real, it's very important, and we have to have an educated population of consumers as well as providers and sellers, retailers in the space. Senator Bailey has identified one of the things that we need to worry about, which is safety. OCM has been working with the governor's traffic safety team, which works across the state. We have made a financial contribution. They've been doing most of the education work and designing the communications, but we've been out there training drug detection officers. So we do not have a breath test for cannabis. The smell of cannabis is not enough, and it is not enough reason to have an officer stop an individual. So we have to figure out how do we detect cannabis. That the officers are being trained, especially our sheriffs. Additionally, OCM has rolled out their first wave of a policy education program. Many of you may have seen, if you watched basketball NBA playoffs during game one of the playoff series, we ran one of our commercials. So it's an education program to let people know and understand why we did legalization, how it began with decrim, moved to legalization, and that we also have concerns around safety. A number of our subway trains are wrapped with messaging. So we're asking people to learn along with us and to help educate the rest of the community so that we know and understand what it means for safe use, and that we are really able to have an industry that is going to be welcomed in community, that we're going to have good consumers, people that want to use our product, know what they want, have intelligent conversations about it, and that there will be room and space for innovation. So thank you.
And speaking of an innovator, we have a business owner here, Cosmar Day, who started ConBud. Quite an incredible concept, and you need to explain it to people here. But then I also want to hear what some of your concerns are, since you're kind of on the ground floor.
No, thank you. Yeah, so I started a company called ConBud now after I started a company called ConBody, where I hire people coming out of the prison system to teach fitness classes, and I've been doing that for the last 9 years. Under the regulations that were written, I was reading over them, and I was speaking to Eli. I was like, it was the first time I felt so happy when I pleaded guilty for marijuana in front of that judge. And I was like, damn, thank God that I'm living in this time. But I'm very, talking about Jamal saying opportunity is the word of the day. I'm really taking advantage of this opportunity. I'm someone that's been affected by the war on drugs, as we talk about it. I served a total of 6 years in prison and jail. Been in and out of the system. At 13, I was also stopped on the streets, 2 nickel bags. Started my whole arrest record and been in and out of the system since then. And then I've been able to change my life around when I came out of the prison system to start this business, profitable business where I've hired over 50 people coming out of the system, have a 0 recidivism rate. We do. So I've been, things have been aligning, but there's also a lot of questions for the OCM. I've submitted my comments. I've been fortunate enough to work on operating with a great team in the Bronx. We solidify a location in Mott Haven, 1 Bruckner Boulevard. I've been getting all my ducks in the works. I've been doing my homework. I've been doing my homework, and I hope the legacy market that's in this room have been doing their homework. And if you need support in getting in this up and running, I'm here for any questions. I'm gonna stick around all day, and we got to listen to the individuals here on the table. But there are different concerns. We talk about audited financials on our regulations. That's going to cost a lot of money for individuals. Getting audited financials, I'm being quoted $20,000 for audited financials per year. Somebody that's been in my shoes, yes, I could pay it, but am I going to spend it? Can I qualify under reviewed financials? I don't know.
This is a moment. I need,
yeah, no, I mean,
our Commissioner Kim to let you know that they can assist you with finding accountants that are not going to cost $20K to do audited financials. So I'm sorry I had to jump in and kind of interrupt here.
No,
because this is the hood game that is being played on everybody interested in cannabis at this moment. Services do not have to cost that much. And as Commissioner Kim has already identified, and I think Eli also mentioned it at the end of his comments, there are organizations that are already practiced, well-established, that offer free services to people who are starting and or revising their business plans. Please make sure you speak to them before you walk out of this room, because they can help you do it. And I'm going to also add in your libraries. They have the SCORE team available. Those are retired executives that will also go through your business plan and help connect you with service providers who are not trying to rob you for $20,000.
Yeah,
you are not KPMG. You should not be paying $20,000 to get your taxes done. So please be mindful of anyone that is approaching you and asking you for a $3,000 monthly retainer so that they can consult with you, or anybody that tells you that your legal services has to cost $10,000, or that your license with the state is going to cost you X number of dollars. They don't know because the regulations are not written.
I'm also concerned on. Yes, I'm part of the legacy market, but there's a whole bunch of smoke shops, out there doing their thing, and there's a whole bunch of regulations like not going after them. You know what I mean? So I've been on panels where I've seen you speak, where you go into the shops and take down things. I respect that, Jermaine, but how are we going to battle this?
Smoke shops. So this began with a decriminalization effort. I do need to just be really clear that cannabis on our streets is not new. We all have grown up with it. We all are very much aware of it. And the same way everybody in this room knows how to go play a number in their neighborhood, somebody else knows how to go buy cannabis. And we've had Lotto for 40 years. So I don't want us to pretend that just because we passed the law that suddenly that it's all over. The decrim was the first step. Legalization is the next step. It is going to take work and effort for us to create an atmosphere where consumers want to go for just the regulated markets, where we are educating our consumers so that they know where to go and purchase safe products. But we also have to tell them what to expect and what to look for. That's what part of the labeling regulation is helping them to do. So yes, we were very deliberate in making it clear that we were not going to go out and arrest everybody who was doing an unregulated sale in this state at this moment, because we would be picking up a whole lot of people other than those who operate smoke shops if that were the intent. It's not the intent in this moment. We really want to educate people and help get people set up so that they can do and operate. And if they want to transition into the regulated market, that they know that we are here to offer a helping hand and not an arrest. So I know that there is some frustration and apprehension because there are people who are selling, but we already knew that there were people selling. These people just stand in one location and do it. So let's be patient as we work through solutions. We educate them and bring them on board. And also those people, because they are in establishments that very often already have EINs or employee identification numbers, they are subject to tax and finance. And so let tax and finance deal with them immediately. We're not taking criminal action against them at this moment, but we are creating pathways so that your business will be able to operate successfully in this space as well.
Yeah, if I could just weigh in real quick. I think what I've heard from members of the community, former clients, people that just ask questions, is apprehension and a lot of misinformation from, frankly, shady actors out there who are trying to take advantage of this situation. Sure. So it's important to listen to the experts, like listen to the OCM, because they're the ones that are issuing these regulations. That's what's really happening. But also, people need to come in and fill the void and help walk people through this process. So as Cas was alluding to, the Bronx Defenders is launching a project in partnership with the Bronx Community Foundation. We're creating the Bronx Cannabis Hub with the hope of connecting people to free pro bono legal services to help them through this application process, and experts. We're not trying to get a license. We're not trying to make money off of anybody. We're just trying to help people actually get the information that they deserve and they need, and also the best legal advice. So no, people aren't going out and paying $20,000 for services they don't need. So that's a project that we're hoping to launch by the end of July, and so that it can actually be helpful for this first round of licenses. I'll pass it to Desmond to talk a little bit more about it, but we wanted to let everybody know about that.
So as a part of some of the foundation's work, we've been sort of talking to a lot of potential social equity applicants across the Bronx. And what we're hearing is there's a need for more and more education and information. And so with the help and leadership of the Bronx Defenders, we're going to launch these types of events across the entire borough. And we need all of your help to work with us to get into the community, to identify those eligible social equity applicants so that we can help them get to license and bring those licenses to the Bronx. And so we're doing a call to action today for you all to reach out to us. We have the Bronx Defenders table at the back, the Bronx Community Foundation table at the back. We've just launched an Instagram page today at Bronx Cannabis Hub. If you could follow us there, reach out to us. We have cannabis@thebronx.org is our email address. If you want to reach out to us, if you need support, if you need education, and we're going to be partnering with a lot of our elected officials and our state leaders to really get as far and wide into the community as we can. And we want you to all be participating with us. We're going to be working with Latinas Grow and a number of other grassroots organizations who already have been in this space. We were talking to Cos earlier about joining us on this journey as well. So we're doing a call to action. We will love all of your support to work with us on this initiative.
Can I just say something? And I think that I just want us to really be honest about the space that we're in. And that based upon what our chair said, right, there are going to be enough licenses. There's not going to be a prohibition on licensure, right? We already see we already start to see these seeds being sown, right? This is not going to be the next block versus block fight, y'all. We can't do this. We cannot fight each other on this. If we have questions, let's figure out where to go. Before I'm a legislator, I'm just a kid from Uptown. And as a kid from Uptown, you've seen some things. And you've seen what the drug trade did to so many lives, not just based upon the war on drugs, what the individuals who were involved, what they did to each other, right? Just because the market is going to be legal doesn't mean that we can't think about the same pitfalls that happened in the prior generations. This is not me as a senator coming to you to ask you anything legislatively. It's just me as somebody who cares about his community. We can all eat. And so I just want us to be able to have that attitude and that mentality that we can all eat. If you're better at what you're doing, you're going to eat more. If you're better at what you're doing, you're going to eat more. And that's up to you. That's what the charge is. But don't cut somebody else's nose because you don't want them to smell. Right? That's what I'm trying to say. Appreciate it.
And I mean, to Costa's point and to Chair Wright's point, that's what we do. At SBS, we help you prepare your business plans. We help you with the financial acumen you need to succeed. But as Borough President said earlier, don't wait. Even if you're not applying for the card, the next year will be upon you like this. So get that stuff prepared now, because I guarantee you, once the regular licenses, as you may call them, or however you want to refer to them, once they come out, you're going to have a lot of people applying. And even at SBS being a city agency, we might get inundated, right? So come in now and get all the background, like get prepared. What was this saying you said? Be prepared to...
Get ready. Stay ready.
Right, if you say ready. So get ready now. That's really the point, right? Because for the community partners as well, if you wait till the last second, everybody has limited resources. And the last thing I do want to point out, as part of the city, we have the Economic Development Corporation, EDC, which is our sister agency. So what they're doing right now is also looking for New York City-owned property as well for siting purposes. They're doing the analysis. And then they're also looking to see how to help get capital access, right? We know since it's federally prohibited, it makes it harder sometimes to, in many ways, to get access to capital. But EDC is also working on it. So the city, as SBS doing outreach, legal and education, and then EDC is looking at the real estate and financing. So you'll hear more from us as time comes.
Thank you. Unless anyone here has anything else, we're going to open it up to the room for some questions. We got a first hand right here.
Somebody like me, I want to operate one of the biggest legacy cultivation brands in New York City. Probably even the East Coast. I don't have a criminal record. I've successfully been operating for the past 10 years. I can't show you W-2s. I've been in the dark all this time. It's probably the worst thing I should be doing right now. But does someone like me have access to the market? Because I have made relationships over the past 10 years with capital. I have made relationships with people who can show W-2s, who can show you successful businesses. I just can't do that. So I'm just wondering if I even have access in the first place, or if I need to be a recluse again and continue to disrupt the industry as we have been, right? As legacy operators. Not all of us can show all that stuff, you know what I mean? I think we've put in a lot of work. We're actually working with the city of Mount Vernon right now. We've acquired property. We've already spoken to the property owners. We have a pitch deck, business plans, investors, and we're ready to go. I just want to know more or less if I even have a shot.
So I am going to say, since you just told me that you were not arrested and you do not have a conviction, you do not qualify. No. You don't. So I just wanted to make that clear for folks. So no, you do not qualify for this one specific moment. You qualify for the general licensing. Now, the next question becomes, how do you need to set up your organization so that you can present the best organization on paper? I need you to go speak to some of the free legal services and SBS, because then they'll help you create the organization. How your business looks on paper is the fiction for taxes. And so they're going to help you walk through that space so that you get the best outcomes. And as you just identified, you even have partners and other interested parties. So all of that is something that they'll be able to walk you through. And yes, you are eligible.
And if I may, you said Mount Vernon, so I don't know if you've been connected with Mayor Sean Patterson Howard or okay, so So let's make sure we can connect with them later because I represent the city of Mount Vernon as well. So we should have, if you need to get into there, Commissioner Kim can help, but he's outside of the actual jurisdiction which you're looking to operate in, so we can try to figure out how to help you in Westchester County.
Hi, all. My name is Samuel Mfadli. I'm the CEO and founder of The Urban Wild. We teach young people how to grow, design, maintain hydroponic systems, specifically for food relief, but many of our students end up wanting to go into cannabis, which is understandable, and we want to make sure that they have jobs available for them. I have a two-part question for you. One is, where does workforce align with being able to contract with the city or be able to be a vendor for workforce services for cannabis industries? That would be my first part of my question.
So that's a city question. Go ahead.
City, state. Well, look, we know that the licenses and retail isn't the only aspect of this industry that needs to be supported because we talk about a sustainable industry, right? We're talking about long-term sustainability. You need to make sure that the workforce development part of it is being addressed, and we're looking into all that as well. There are so many businesses that don't touch the plant, right? There's security, there's delivery, there's many types of businesses. And we're hoping that people are also getting ready for that now as well, because those are also in general, small businesses. And we want to talk to you because we want to help position you and to help you start. And then if you already have a business that's in that industry, then help you grow or get connected to the cannabis industry. But workforce development, we understand that not everyone's going to just be in the retail or sales business. There's 9 different licenses, right? But in terms of the industry itself, we are going to have to focus on training, like what you're doing now, to get people ready and then prepared as the market grows to take advantage of that as well.
I appreciate that.
And the
Definitely.
State Department of Labor already has a listing of over 300 jobs on their site for cannabis-related positions. So I guess if you're in, and I do not know if they are going to be issuing any grants or RFPs for partnerships with workforce development, but if you're looking to structure for those jobs, that might be a good site.
Yeah, that was definitely what I was curious about, the RFPs for sure. And to that point about the folks that are not going directly into cannabis cultivation, for students that want to do things like seed growing or create and clone in their own breeds of different seeds, where might they be able to plug in? Because I wasn't able to see that in the list of cannabis licensing options.
So the cannabis licenses we're not there, I'm going to say the agency is not workforce development. The agency is here to design and regulate the industry. Our social equity program will offer some supports for it, but I'm also going to say Department of Labor is the agency and partner for us that would be more specifically able to answer the questions about what kind of educational programming and skill sets are necessary for the jobs that are coming online in the industry. So I would definitely direct that to our partner, DOL, and they are already working on that work, and SBS is doing some of it, as well as workforce development under the EDC here in the city. So no, I'm saying that we don't have a list of specifically seed growing or any particular job because we don't do that work. We don't manage that. We manage licensing companies who want to operate in this space. Finding jobs and developing skill set, we leave that to our partners, our partner agencies, some cities, some state, but it usually looks more like a Department of Labor.
Hi, my name's Annette Fernandez. I'm co-founder of Uptown Cannabis Coalition. Thank you. First of all, thank you so much to all the panelists. You guys have done an amazing job today. I love how this conversation is showing signs of elevation because we're past a lot of like the research questions and things like that. So I think my question is two-parter. Can you talk about some of the similarities that you got in commentary? Because I know we submitted 22 comments with Uptown Cannabis Coalition, and we're very, very proud of our community for showing up and working and doing the work and researching and sitting down and reading through the regs. So Can you walk me through some of the similarities you found in that commentary for the initial COD program? And then can you talk about some of the RFP opportunities that are out there right now?
So I am unable to discuss the regulations that are open for comment. I am on the body that will be making decisions on them, whether or not we approve them, so I'm unable to have that conversation. But they are being processed and they are available, and the next version of it will demonstrate what changes we have incorporated. The second part was RFP opportunities. Currently, there are no RFPs that are out with under OCM.
Can I just a sec, can I just say that with Oasis, we do have an RFP for a community coalition to do prevention work within your community, and that is really from the ground up. And so we do have an RFP that's closing next month, and specifically targeting the Bronx for having a community coalition, so prevention
coalition. SLA, is it the same process from when we get the licenses from to go to the community board and have their support? Is it going to be the same process to get the licenses, their permission?
So under our law, which is modeled very similarly to the SLA, applicants must go before the community and get a letter of support, or I'm going to say a recommendation. The idea is that you want support, but the communities are not obligated to offer support, as we know, because we've all been involved in liquor determinations. So, but that is one of the requirements for licensees.
Thank you.
Well, I think just to add to that, though, I think that the city, we are looking at the community board process in general, and also, Chair, right, I think, isn't it true that in the law, similar to the SLA, just because you get denied by the community board doesn't mean you won't get the license, right?
That
was advisory.
It's advisory, so just so you know.
That was my concern,
Yeah,
okay.
it's only advisory.
It is advisory.
Hello, good afternoon, or good evening. My name is Ebro, and I'm CEO of a company called Good Vibes, and I basically go into low-income communities, and I help high school students get into college debt-free, and 90% of my students, they go to college and don't have to pay for anything. But I'm here to ask you in regards to 5 actionable items that I could take right now from here to be upfront and in position to be successful business. And then the second question that I have for you guys is, when it comes to federal government contracting, so when it comes to transportation that will be coming out from the OCM or packaging, what website can we go to find those federal government contracts?
So, one, we don't do federal contracts because we are a state agency. So all of our packaging and manufacturing and processing regulations are state, and they only manage New York State. You are not allowed to transport cannabis over state lines. So these are all New York State rules and laws that will be governing the program. And for what to do to get ready for business, I'm going to pass that over to our business experts.
I would say that, first of all, you should get a business plan ready, and we can help you with that. Secondly, I mean, it all falls under getting educated, right? So we want to know that, again, you're already running a business, so you probably have the basic foundational skills, but people have to understand that there are legal aspects, right? You need to know how to incorporate a business, right? You need to understand basic accounting, right? How do you keep bookkeeping, and create a business plan. So I think those are some of the basics that you should get ready for now, and we have services that can help you with all of that.
And how to come to you guys when it comes to business funding?
Yeah, so we also have a division that focuses on capital access, and for cannabis, you know, it can be tricky because of the federal prohibitions. So that's what the Economic Development Corporation, or EDC, our sister agency, is really trying to figure out what opportunities there are. But again, you can come to us for all of the services. we'll do the best we can in terms of what's prohibited, what's not, and guide you through it.
Good afternoon. My name is Daniel Rivera. I want to thank Eli. One time he pointed out my one arrest for possession helps me out. So if anyone wants knowledge on that, go to this man right here. I'm also the founder of the Bronx Normal Chapter, National Organization of Reform of Marijuana Laws. By far and away, the most diverse chapter in all of their history. Quick question. I'm a grower a little bit, but a little bit. I'm not going to tell you too much. I'm a patient, by the way. There are brownfield areas in this borough that have warehouses that are conducive for co-ops, indoor grow, micro grow, you name it. What is this borough gonna do with those kind of properties and for this city as a whole? Because there are a lot of warehouses that I can see, and I'm the child of a building super, that are conducive for these matters. What is gonna happen? What can we do? And what do you need of us to help with that?
You know what? So I'm going to say, at this time, that is a community board issue. You guys, community boards are for your community planning. When you get involved and you identify the spaces and the places in your community and how you want them to be used, what are your proposed zoning opportunities, what is it that you want to see developed in your community, you have the right under our existing laws through your community board to create community plans. You need to get involved with whatever community board those properties sit in and start to do it. Now, if you're having a different conversation about, so then you can determine what you want to see there. Because honestly, when we say it's about opportunity, this really is the moment for you to decide and to tell people the plan you have for your space in your neighborhood. But thereafter, I'm going to say, what you're also asking us is if the city is in any way supporting development there. And I think that those are questions that I'm not sure that Kevin has the answers for through SBS, but I do believe that those are spaces where you can engage our local electeds so that they can have a more robust conversation with you and other community members who are interested in doing the work. But go through, I'm going to suggest that you go through your community board. Just in fairness, I was on the community board for 14 years. I'm a staunch supporter. And we actually did do our community plan. And but it ended up being very helpful for identifying our manufacturing and limiting zoning. And so just get involved if you can through that.
And I will say that we have specifically cooperative licenses. We're in the MRTA, and myself, Tremaine, Vanessa, we went to Mondragon, Spain, and we studied the worker co-op models. So that was one of the things that we were adamant about, the placement of that in the MRTA. So there is a cooperative license that's built in. The cooperative license, correct me if I'm wrong, the cooperative just can't do direct to consumer, but they can do everything else more or less. But there is a cooperative component in the MRTA, just so. I'm outside.
One thing that I would just say, that kind of alludes to some of the questions that have been asked. If you think you have a conviction, you should get your certificate of disposition for that conviction. So go to the courthouse in the county in which you were convicted and ask them for your certificate of disposition. That'll be an important document to have. Then we're going to try to figure out how to help people through that process, but there are some difficult issues with the expungement. It's not going to show up on every record, but it should show up. You still have access to it directly yourself. It shouldn't have been destroyed. So.
Hello, my name is Noel Mendez, and I represent New York Stoner. We're a cannabis organization. And, we hear a lot of talk about growing, dispensary, and processing, but as you mentioned, there's other licenses. So the question is, what is the information out there for other licensing, for deliveries, for micro business, for anything? Nurseries. So what are we going to do to address that? Because I know a lot of legacy operators are definitely looking into getting to other licenses, but we have no information.
So all of that information will be coming out in regulation, and we are rolling out regulation. As I stated already, the first sets of regulations were what did I say? I'm sorry. Packaging, manufacturing, and processing, and then testing. However, just to inform everybody who's in the room, the 9 license types: cultivator, nursery, processor, distributors, retail dispensaries, delivery, on-site consumption, adult use cooperatives, and then micro businesses. So those are the 9 license types. We will be rolling them out over the course of the remainder of this year. So as regulations become available, they'll be available on our site. The first 60 days after we release them is the first comment period. So please chime in, and then they'll be revised and re-released. So that's the course of action. And I do want to say also, I'm really encouraged when I hear people talking about the business, the ancillary businesses, but also the real awareness that you don't have to create a new business. I love the idea that the CONBOD is rolling into cannabis. I love to see businesses that exist to figure out how they can incorporate cannabis and come up with innovative ways to be a partner in the industry. We don't all need to be growers or delivery people. There are pharmacists in almost every cannabis business. Everybody that has a retail location needs an exterminator. Like, there's just some realities to the existence of business, so it's really encouraging when I hear everybody talking about what they already do, how they can incorporate it, because that's really what it means to be an industry. It's not just everybody opening a store. So thank you, and I really do applaud y'all for being really engaged that way. Thanks.
So this is Biren Patel. I just got a quick question. I know federally it's in the pathway of becoming legal as well. So what mechanisms is the regulators and the legislators are going to take to prevent that these young businesses are not disadvantaged by another business in another state?
We're currently not able to do anything that affects operations in any other state. We are working alongside our federal partners so that we can address concerns that are national. We would really like to see legalization nationally. We also want to see decrim nationally, and we also would like to be able to address those who have been harmed nationally. So that is an ongoing conversation. I know that my office has had conversations with Senator Schumer, who's been taking a lead on a number of these issues, but it is something that we're doing collaboratively, and we don't have the answers for it. That's because it is just beyond the scope of our work. But we are definitely considering them, and we're working with partners to make sure that issues that we have identified don't get lost in their conversation.
I just wanted to add on to the last question that was asked. When it comes to the licensing, I know that there was 9 different licenses. Will there be any restrictions on the number of licenses that one particular organization may be able to have? Because that's something that I was wondering as well. I know that that one company could just do massively one thing, but I've done extensive research in other states that have gotten multiple licenses to be able to operate and do
so
things differently.
we're anti-monopoly almost. I don't want to say we're anti-monopoly, but our law is designed so that people are not able to have a vertical system. So we're deliberate in prohibiting people from getting licenses in every license type, because then they would be able to sidestep our design. And I believe the one that we allow, or the ones that we allow people to own concurrently, are cultivating and processing. And I think that might be it: cultivating, processing, manufacturing.
Just to add on, I did some research on also, of course, other states. Will you guys be introducing a tracking RFID system from seed to sale as well?
There definitely is. Okay. And just as an example, in our existing medical program, we already use tracking software so that we monitor from seed to sale at this point already.
One just last thing. Of course, I know we live in the city, we're in the Bronx right now, but of course, New York State is huge. When it comes up to trying to invest into ownership of land or property, when it comes up to zoning and different agricultural things, are there going to be, like, if there's any provisions on those things of how can someone who's like an individual who be able to participate in some ownership of land and be able to start agricultural businesses on that land?
So, in terms of, are you speaking in terms of the agriculture space, in terms of like
In terms of cultivation, and,
So-
and also with that licensee, and how would that look like in reflection of maybe of saying someone buying land that's completely, unmaintained and being able to do through a whole process of either setting up a unit or setting up maybe an outdoor grow. Of course, New York is, bipolar with the weather, but in those sense, how would a person be able to participate in that kind of decision making?
Well, there are a number of conversations happening in terms of the agricultural space. We're trying to have a division of urban agriculture, and we're trying to work with our partners upstate and with the farms in terms of what that emerging market looks like. I don't have a specific answer on what. That's a very detailed question. I don't have that specific question on that, but it is something that we're looking into in terms of also community land trusts and things of that nature, and things that kind of lend more towards that. I guess that community-based model, like the Dudley Street Neighborhood Initiative in Boston, that kind of spurred on a cooperative type of movement. So we are looking at those, but I don't have a dispositive answer for you at this time.
Thank you.
I wanted to piggyback on one question that he was referring to a little bit on the investment side. That's you can't do a vertical integration. You can't own. You can't monopolize the business. But can an investor have a minority stake in certain businesses? Can somebody? Be a
We're
minority?
determining that in regulation.
Okay.
Hi, good evening. Jamil Mari, thank you guys so much for the panel, for the conversation. I truly appreciate each and everybody's input. Chairman Wright, yes, one of the hardest, if not the hardest, chairwoman in the country. Thank you so much for all your efforts. My question actually is more on the side of the medical program. And a lot of the conversation really kind of centered a lot, obviously, around the adult use program. But there is an existing medical program here, and there are about 120,000 medical patients that exist in this program, of which, 10% are fleeing every month or something like that. What is the plan for this particular program in keeping it sustainable and keeping it operating? It can't fall by the wayside because cannabis is a medicine. It is a medicine. And so let's not lose sight of that particular fact. And so I'd love to hear if there's plans for an expanded medical program with the adult use licenses that are coming. Will there be some sort of pathway to, in essence, being able to provide, sales of or co-locating medical and adult use, and that the ROs that are existing now, who are the MSOs, they're the only ones who can actually access that part of the market. So, they kind of play in both lanes, as we all know, or all lanes, if not. So if you could, kind of expound on that, I'd greatly appreciate it. Thank you.
So thank you for that question, because the medical program is very important to New York State. That was the first program that we were able to roll out here, and we do want to see it continue to grow. And we are trying to figure out exactly what does it look like to grow a medical program once you introduce adult use in the same space. In other states, we've seen that there's been a decline in participation. But here, I'm going to say we are committed to continuing to make sure the patients have service. We already have a number of research projects that are happening within the state, and we are working with our partners so that we can continue to see what that looks like. We do not have a quote-unquote plan, but I am going to say that we have been engaging with our ROs for at least the last 6 months to talk with them about what does it look like for them to grow in their industry. This weekend coming up, I am meeting with the nurses, the Cannabis Nursing Association, so that we can discuss what does it look like. Because part of the learning curve, I'm going to say, is we've got to have education so practitioners actually know how to manage and prescribe cannabis. It's not something that they are taught or that they are aware of in medical school. It's a holistic approach. And unfortunately, American medical schools do not focus on that. So we're trying to develop the education base so that we can start to promote it. We're also trying to make sure that we are engaging and talking with professionals so that even before those courses, that coursework and those continuing education courses are created, that we have a number of practitioners who are willing and able to start learning more about the substance. We are able to identify a number of hospitals in our community already that are doing tests. Many of you might be familiar with Memorial Sloan Kettering. They even have a cancer research unit inside the hospital because so many people who suffer from cancer utilize cannabis as part of their care. There's also a palliative or pain management component that people are at least exploring, and geriatric. So we are engaged in the conversation. We do not have a definitive plan, but these are things that we are exploring and that we really do look forward to engaging with the industry on, because that is an important part of the industry. And I guess the way I'm thinking about it is we all walk into different drugstores. You got what's behind the counter with the pharmacist, and we have what's on the shelves for you to go and help yourself. And people need both. And so we're just trying to make sure that we strike the right balance.
Hi, my name is Indira. I'm part of the Latino Cannabis Association. My first question is, how long will it take to get a response or approval once we submit an application?
We do not know yet. Okay. And I know that is not comforting, but.
Not at all, not at all, because I know that Kevin.
I mean, the reality is we're going to be processing applications on an ongoing basis. So some people will deliver their applications that are incomplete, illegible, or just whatever problems that arise. So we will be processing them, but honestly, we just don't have a time frame at this moment because we don't really know what to anticipate when those doors open. I imagine it's going to be a lot of work immediately, and people will be inundated. But so I can't accurately give you an.
So maybe you can make me feel a little bit better if you tell me, is it going to be as bad as the liquor license?
I am not going to throw any of my colleagues under the bus. So do you mean, are we going to be as efficient as?
Yeah, that's what I meant. That's what I meant. Sorry.
Right. So I'm going to say we are going to strive to be as efficient as possible. And we are trying to set up the application process so that there are simple inputs so that it makes the review process easier. So we're trying to work on the systems and the processes side of it at this moment. I am hopeful that it results in an efficient review process so that we can make determinations on applications as soon as possible. But beyond that, I'm unfortunately not able to give any real information.
Okay, thank you. My second question is about the processing license that you said are coming up that you're going to start accepting. So will that also be similar to the cultivation license? Like, is it going to be for pre-selected people that already have hemp processing only?
Yes. So everything that was, so the seeding, this is all part, these conditional licenses are all part of a seeding opportunity initiative that was just passed by our state legislature this spring, this session that just ended. It was signed into law, and it was an opportunity, it was something that was added to the MRTA so that we would be able to get some people into the market first. So they made very limited they made very specific requirements so there would be a limited pool, and we would be able to prioritize a few people that we believed would be up and able to get running very quickly. So that's why the farmers are folks that are already farmed hemp, because we are also trying to incorporate an outdoor grow program to see what happens in that system. We know and understand that many of the growers in New York State are going to be indoor growers. This was one of the opportunities to promote and to support outdoor grow. The processors are going to be hemp, those who are already in the existing hemp program, and the retailers are going to be those who have been convicted of marijuana-related charges. So this is a very limited scope. The general adult use licenses will probably open late this year, early next year.
Okay, and then my last question is, I guess a lot of you on the panel can shine some light on this. What kind of advice do you have or can give us social equity groups and legacy groups that, because of our background, we're kind of forced to join with operators or investors on this journey? So what can you say about that, or what can you give us to kind of shine some light on our journey?
I'm gonna give that to some of the business folks there. Legal and business. Hop in. No.
I advise everybody to, and we spoke to Tremaine maybe when you had that session in Albany back when Senator Sanders held that over there. And you were like, be ready to submit day one. And so, be ready to submit. And that's what I advise everybody to do. Get your stuff ready, submit day one, upload, and see what happens. You know what I mean? So don't wait until last minute. And you said there was, back then you were like, it's going to be open for 2 weeks. I don't know if that's
That was, no, that's for the conditionals.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying, for the
Conditionals have this,
conditional.
it's like a month.
So
It's no time. I mean, it's really small windows.
You got to be quick with it. First come, first serve. So that's what I advise.
Right, so.
I would say also, though, don't be intimidated or think that you shut yourself out of this. I mean, on the flip side of that, like, be ready, but don't think that you can't do this or be intimidated. This is just, OCM, we have a good bill that prioritizes social equity. We have an Office of Cannabis Management that I think wants to do the right thing. We have legislators here in the Bronx that want this to work for social equity applicants. So that doesn't mean that it's going to be easy, but I do think it's lined up for there to be support for people. So don't be intimidated. Don't count yourself out of this because you don't have all your ducks in a row right now. There's still some time. There are people that want this to happen. And so try to take advantage of the opportunity and at least try for it.
I would say one thing in terms of the familiarity with your, I think the brother, Nestor, I think his name was, the gentleman right there. No, not the brother right there, you. Yeah.
No.
Daniel, I'm sorry. I don't know where I got that name. My fault. Very close, Amanda, thank you. But his point about my office is in his neighborhood, he's gonna pull up, I think that's a good idea, right? I think that what you should do is start familiarizing yourself with not just the elected officials, because it's not just the elected officials, to be honest with you. It's the community board members. These are the fabric members of the community, the chairs, those folks who if they tell 20 people who to vote for, 25 people vote for them somehow, right? Like it's contacting those fabric and those pillars of community about what you are intending to do in our communities. It is one thing to do business in a community. It is a different thing to do business with the community. Be someone who is willing to do business with the community. That would be my biggest piece of advice.
I just want to thank everyone for all of your wonderful questions here today. And for all the questions you submitted ahead of time. That's what made this discussion so lively. So thank you. Thank you, everyone, for coming and everyone watching on the live stream, to the Bronx Borough President's Office for putting this on, our wonderful panel. We want to acknowledge New York State Assembly Member Amanda Septimo for coming.